All right, click the links for Odysee, VidChute, Coffee, Discord, or to join the channel. Everyone is suing Disney. Gee, a globalist parasite company allegedly breaching contract terms. Shocking. People are laughing at these women, saying that the movies they were in were just bad films, which is probably true for some of them, but Disney made a contract. They still have to stick to the terms that they agreed to, otherwise they are in breach. And people are saying it's millionaire actors whining, but if the allegations are true, then billionaire Disney actually caused the actors financial harm by breaching the contract, and they should get damages. The actual damages to compensate them, who knows, those are a bit up in the air, because the movies weren't great, but the punitive damages are there to punish Disney for its wrongful acts and to prevent future harm. Even billionaire companies must abide by the terms of their bargain. It will encourage them to set fair and accurate contracts up front, not overpromise, then breach because they know that the actors are scared to sue. And it's funny because the actors, their agents, and their attorneys, and Disney knew that they were in breach as soon as like the actors and everyone associated with their legal team heard about what Disney was doing. It's like everyone knew they were in breach, and it was intentional, and it wasn't a mistake. It's not like, oh, what did we miss? No, they're in breach. They're just screwing you. It's like they're telling you right to their face, we're so powerful, we're going to breach, and you're probably not going to do anything because you want to stay in Hollywood. So it's like you're just going to have to take what we give you. It's like, but you made a promise? Like, isn't that an exchange of promises? Yeah, Disney just doesn't care. They said they tried to renegotiate the contract, which is a nice way of saying, yes, we know you were in material breach. We all, like, you know it, we know it, everyone knows it. You guys just absolutely breached it. There's no hedging this. And they said that Disney was hard to get a hold of. Just like, don't we have a contract here? Like, don't we have a legal issues to discuss? You're not taking our calls because you're afraid of getting sued. Well, it's like all it takes is one Scarlett Johansson to open the gates, and it turns out, I mean, she can do it because she's got so much money in the bank. If she never does anything for Disney again or in Hollywood again, it's like it's not a big deal. But anyway, if Disney wants to treat wealthy actors like this, then how do they treat everyone else who can't afford a multi-million-dollar, multi-year lawsuit that is also incredibly stressful? If Disney had to negotiate an accurate contract up front, they may have had to pay Scarlett more, but they know this, so they allegedly made a promise they didn't intend to keep. For a prequel movie, Black Widow, they probably had to have her in specifics. They didn't want to substitute out an actor, or the film, it probably just wouldn't go forward, which isn't a big deal to Disney. It was a mediocre movie, but it keeps the character fresh in the public mind. But they didn't have to move Black Widow if they didn't want to. They could have skipped it. Explained to ScarJo, hey, why just take the money or the film just gets skipped. She probably would have taken a flat fee and been totally fine with only making $20 million instead of whatever it would have earned, 27 if it went to they delayed the streaming. So a lot of people are missing the point, saying that the actors are greedy. It's business. This is in a legal framework. In a civil society, people stick to contracts. Otherwise, society gets bogged down in litigation. Everyone suffers when people breach contracts. And a monster company like Disney is a different story. The amount of political power they have is something that people often overlook. Money from NGOs is very slippery and tricksy, especially when it flies around sticky-fingered politicians, which is why allowing your country to get turned into a commercial zone is very bad for the people of the nation who aren't the ultra-wealthy, i.e. us. Because the people elect representatives, but in actuality, billionaire donors are actually controlling the politicians. A commercial nation like America, it turns out that it's just a slave state. You won't own anything. Well, you don't own anything now. Try not paying property taxes or estate taxes or any of those taxes that at one time people would have thrown some tea in the harbor for. You own things conditioned on continued payment to the puppet masters who then somehow manage to overspend your tax dollars. So the globalists who run the country and Federal Reserve overspent and put the country in debt to other globalists who actually run the country and own the country. You ever wonder how a government can tax the shrinking tax base, pay themselves, yet overspend and create a country where the bankers actually own everything? You don't own stuff now, you rent it from bankers or a government that's actually run by bankers for the benefit of bankers. Hey, let's go to war. It will not benefit us in any way, and it'll put us in debt to the bankers that caused the war in the first place, but screw it, let's do it anyway. Oh yeah, it's also a good way to delete some healthy young men fighting pointless banker wars. Now I finally realize what all those filthy, gray-bearded hippies were trying to tell me decades ago. They weren't crazy old coots, they had just lived long enough to see the way of the world. I can see how it feels like an insurmountable burden when you can't possibly move a ship so large onto a new course. And decades ago it would have been difficult. But nowadays we have Gab, Odysee, BitChute, and a bunch of other sites to act as pulleys and levers to start moving that massive rudder. The globalists are enslaving us, and we want liberty, two diametrically opposed goals. Unfortunately, the globalists are very powerful and dangerous people. If they can bribe the two guards to turn off those cameras and go surf the internet, one of the guards was surfing for a new motorcycle. While a guy goes in the cell to tie up loose ends, then they can get to us also. Do you ever stop to wonder if tying up resources in a small number of billionaires is such a good idea? Like, maybe the rich and powerful should have to live in the world that they create for us. But the same technique they use to stop unions is what they're using in America, Europe, Canada, and Australia. Diversity equals loss of cohesion and low trust. A mixed group literally will be so busy fighting each other that they'll just never overthrow the puppet masters. That's the point of globalism, so the few can enslave the many. Antifa and BLM riot and burn and loot small businesses. Property values go down. Wealthy politicians and bankers just buy the land cheap and then rent it out to the debt slaves. Why don't Antifa and BLM go to the government centers? Because, and follow me here, Antifa is actually controlled by the rich and powerful. Soros and the bankers donated $1 billion to BLM. Gosh, why don't the media cover it? Now, that's a good question. Ask Elon Musk. Antifa is literally busy attacking the middle class. Gee, Antifa, what happened to eating the rich? Well, the 0.01% actually control Antifa and BLM. The only thing that scares the puppet masters is if black, white, and brown team up to overthrow them. Unfortunately, the psychology of game theory usually prevents this, but maybe we can figure out a way around that. Making ultra-powerful Disney abide by the terms of the contract are like making state and federal governments abide by the terms of the Constitution. They're not granting rights, they are enumerating ways to limit the government from trampling on your inalienable rights. Try open carrying in California. The state agents will delete you. At the best, they'll confiscate your property and imprison you. Doesn't that violate the Bill of Rights? Like the second part of it? Of course it does. So why don't we do anything about it? In California, the people seem to only want criminals and the state to be armed. It's the most naive and trusting group of people you can possibly imagine. They also want felony catch and release, because in California it's clowns all the way down. So yeah, I don't care about Scarlett Johansson or Emma Stone or the other chick, though they both have given strong performances in the movies I've seen them in. But America is devolving into a second world commercial zone where the politicians and courts are just basically bought by the wealthy who use our own taxes to oppress us. It's like, gosh, the politicians spent themselves into debt to globalist bankers. At this point, it's like trying to save the country from itself. It's better to actually just split it apart according to different ideologies, and just abolish that debt. Like let the bankers, let the politicians and the bankers who started the debt pay themselves. So they can just like, gee, how do all the countries in the world owe money to people. It's like, who owns that debt? It's like, why don't all the countries just get together and cancel it? Heaven forbid. What a rabbit hole, huh? Anyway, like, comment, subscribe, guys. I'll see you on the next episode.